President Trump took his criticism of special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation a step further this weekend. He called out the special counsel by name on Saturday for the first time, saying, quote, "The Mueller probe should never have been started." President Trump also called the investigation a witch hunt. The president attacked Mueller's team again on Sunday, asking why it's made of 13 hardened Democrats and 0 Republicans, neglecting to mention that Mueller himself is a Republican. Chief White House correspondent Major Garrett joins me now from the White House. Major, what's the significance of the president's now targeted criticism of the Mueller investigation? Feels a little bit new.
Well, it does feel new because for the longest time, the president has spoken generically about this investigation, but has rarely, if ever, identified the one heading it up, Robert Mueller, for specific Twitter denunciation. Well, that ended this weekend quite formally by the president, calling out Robert Mueller in numerous tweets. What does that mean? Well, I can't tell you exactly what it means, but I can tell you what people fear it might mean. Lots of Senate Republicans and House Republicans fear it could be the prelude to the firing of Robert Mueller. It also could mean something far short of that, but significant to the president in the short term and possibly long term. What would that be? Softening up Robert Mueller and his investigators as these discussions between the president's personal attorneys and Mueller's team continue about an interview between the president and Mueller. What would the ground rules be? What would be the ground covered? How would it be dealt with? If the president is in fact denouncing Mueller, creating some anxiety, political or otherwise, about his future, that could be a negotiating tactic in those discussions. We don't know what it is, but we can safely conclude it's increased anxiety among congressional Republicans about Mueller's future, and it's also given a new context to these ongoing discussions about a potential Mueller-Trump interview.
I don't think I'd want to bet on softening up Mueller. I don't know. That strategy may... We'll see how it works out.
Just to describe it as a strategy does not describe it as something that is necessarily going to be successful. But the president tries lots of angles, as we've come to learn.
President Trump also spent part of the weekend celebrating the firing of former Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe and called memos that McCabe reportedly made fake. What's the message there? He's trying to discredit McCabe to what end?
So if McCabe has what are, in legal terms, regarded or described as contemporaneous notes that would support fired FBI Director James Comey's descriptions of his encounters with President Trump before he was fired, that is, requests for loyalty and maybe can you find a way to ease off or back off the Michael Flynn investigation, that would be potentially relevant to Mueller's investigative team if it were taking a long and hard look at potential obstruction of justice. And there is a great deal of evidence to suggest the Mueller team is at least looking in that direction. So if you're going to discredit McCabe and those memos, the firing of McCabe by the Attorney General would be one part of that. But it has to be remembered, Tony, that this firing does reflect an advisory opinion offered internally within the Justice Department,
but it also Inspector General's report is there, right? So yeah, there's cover.
But it also follows the president's long-standing Twitter rants against McCabe and his consistent pressuring of the Attorney General to do things more in line with the president's thinking on this entire subject. So you can't separate those two out. There is an official process, and it was followed by the Justice Department, but you have this other actor out there, the President of the United States, who has done things never before seen on Twitter that call into question the independence of the Justice Department and decisions carried out just like this.
And we've got another card added to the deck in the Trump legal team. New lawyer, who is he? What can you tell us about him? What's his job going to be?
So Joseph DeGeneva will work not here at the White House with Ty Cobb, but with Jay Sekulow and John Dowd, the president's personal attorneys, dealing principally right now with these negotiations with Mueller about a potential interview. He's a former U.S. attorney here in Washington. He has a considerable amount of legal experience, but for years, Tony, he has been one of, if not the most darling member of this city's conservative legal establishment. And for a good long while, principally on Fox, but also in other venues, has denounced Robert Mueller, called the investigation itself useless or pointless or without legal foundation, and been harshly critical of senior FBI leaders dealing with the FBI's investigation of Hillary Clinton's homebrewed email server, calling the Mueller investigation shabby and useless, and the FBI handling of Hillary Clinton borderline criminal in its negligence. So DeGeneva clearly has baked-in attitudes about the Mueller investigation, and those attitudes match up almost precisely with those of President Trump.
All right, Major Garrett at the White House, never shabby, never useless. We thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony.